Football is all the way back. We've worked an entire offseason for this. We've been working on projections over at Analytics, and we've been working on looking at the pick'em board. That's what we're here to talk about. Episode number 1 of Player Profiler's Underdog themed Pick'em Power Hour starts now. I clicked the wrong button, didn't I?
You did.
We will get that.
Want to start over?
Well, on a live stream, you don't get to start over, but we'll have that figured out by episode number 2.
Yeah, I figured everybody get a joke out of it on the live stream if I asked if we wanted to do a do-over.
If Seth Dewold is watching, he has messed this up on the round table before, and he has no shame in admitting it. So I'll take one strike on me. But we're here, nevertheless. We're here. My name is Ahaan Rungta at Ahaan Rungta. You may have seen me on some other Player Profiler shows before, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Trevor Tipton. You'll see me on this at Player Profiler this season, and we're excited. We're going to have a bunch of stuff for Underdog each week. For those who are in also our Discord watching, we're going to have stuff in our Discord that you get access to. There's going to be articles out, and our goal is to find you guys value every week for your pick'em plays for Underdog.
Absolutely. And Underdog is a fantastic place for all of us, really. I mean, we've drafted through Underdog, and we've played Pick'em through Underdog. I was doing Pick'em content last year myself, but let's hear a word from our sponsor before we get right into it.
Let's take a moment to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Now, many of you have already signed up. Thousands have signed up from Player Profiler already over the years. Underdog has supported us since 2020. Much of what you see on Player Profiler is because of Underdog, because of their support. Get the Underdog app, plug in that promo code Underworld. I used to play Underdog just for the best ball drafts. I mean, the best ball drafts are amazing. These draft rooms fill so quickly, and you can win life-changing money. You want to take advantage of all the sleepers we talk about on this show? Well, what better place than in an Underdog draft room to do that? And I recommend taking your Underdog play to the next level by diving into their NFL pick'ems. It's important to correlate those NFL pick'ems. You can pick both the quarterbacks and the wide receivers to exceed expectations. Correlate them, and you can 5x your payout. Bada bing, bada boom. Underdog Fantasy, the promo code is Underworld. For an instant deposit match up to $100, Underdog is the truest friend of the Underworld.
And as you heard in this week's sponsor video, promo code Underworld on Underdog Fantasy. If you haven't already gotten in, now is the time to do it. We're going to start with the season-long entry, though. And if you haven't already followed us on Twitter, well, you may have missed out on some of these. This is why we're here twice a week, every Wednesday and Friday, so that we can get ahead of some of these lines. We'll start with the season-long entry, though. Trevor, you kick it off. We have someone playing tomorrow. Who is it that we're backing for the season long?
So this, I feel personally, is, to take a term, grossly mispriced this season. We are going with David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions. Let me tell you why we like Monty. First, he's behind what is arguably the second best line in the NFL this season, right? Eagles are one by most, general rankings. But Detroit's line is going to be one of the best run lines in the NFL. We saw what they did with Jamal last year, how he got all those touchdown equity, all that goal line work. And he is going to be the back when they are down near the goal line. He's getting the ball. And Underdog gave us the ability to play this at 6.5. I think he's closer to 9 or 10 this season. And if he goes double digits, I wouldn't be shocked behind that offensive line. They paid him in the offseason. Sure, they drafted Gibbs. They drafted Gibbs to be what they wanted Swift to be. They just felt like Swift wasn't ever fully leading up to expectations, and that's why they let him go, in my opinion. And now you're going to take a true 1-2 down back, and I think this is going to be a dangerous two-headed monster. But anytime they're near the goal line, they're giving us Monty at 6.5. We're taking the over on that, and I think he gets started pretty early, as in tomorrow night.
little spoiler alert for a little later in the show, Trevor. I like it. No, but as is the case with all of our picks in our season-long entry, I'm on board with this as well. These 5 picks we're both 100% on the same page with. And we like this even before Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson just cryptically came out and said, we might use Jahmyr Gibbs in some ways that people don't quite think we might. And if that means Jahmyr Gibbs is playing wide receiver and David Montgomery is at a running back, so be it.
Yeah, sign me up. I am a fan of that if that's the way they use it.
Another running back we're backing, and it's a little easier to back David Montgomery for maybe people who've been following the Player Profiler shows for a while. Maybe a little less easy to back Ezekiel Elliott, but again, another line that I think is not priced correctly. We have Ezekiel Elliott higher than 4.5 rushing touchdowns. If I told you that there was a player that scored at least 6 rushing touchdowns every season of his career, and now is in a position where he's probably in the best spot to stay healthy for a full year that he's ever been after already being a poster child for staying healthy, sign me up. And right now, Zeke is backing up Ramondre Stevenson, but one of the reasons I was fading Ramondre Stevenson in fantasy all year, off-season long, is because I expected Bill Belichick, as a Patriots fan, I expected Bill Belichick to bring in someone to take on some of that dirty work near the goal line, and that's just what Zeke is going to do for this offense. Last year, the Patriots only rushed for 12 touchdowns, but guess what? This offense is going to be a little better. It can't get much worse efficiency-wise with what they were doing last year. Mac is going to be healthier, but also Bill O'Brien is in town much better than what we're going to see last year. If this Patriots offense takes any step forward, Ezekiel Elliott to fall in the end zone, just get over the hump, hit someone, fall into the end zone 5 times, I will take that every day of the week. Ezekiel Elliott, higher than 4.5 rushing touchdowns.
I love it. And we're going to go into one now that due to the timing of the show, we had to pivot from a little bit on the play. We're using the same player here, but this, in my opinion, and this is going to ruffle some feathers, but this is the tight end one this season, as long as he stays healthy. And we're going with Darren Waller of the New York Giants to have over 1.5 100-yard receiving games. I am excited. You have to remember, Brian Daboll made Dawson Knox a top fantasy tight end. Dawson Knox. I like Knox. I think he's a good, solid blocking tight end, but he's not an elite dynamic pass catcher like Darren Waller. And if you've followed all in camp, it is crystal clear that Danny Dimes loves him some Darren Waller. So his touchdown line, which I still think is too low, is at 4.5. But for this play, it got moved up to 5. And as we model him out this year and we look at our player profiler projections that Billy and Dario have worked on so hard this year, we love him over 1.5 100-yard receiving games. I think he could do it. And if, say he's not healthy 100%, say he gets 12 games, I still think he hits that over. I think he's going to be used. He's going to be their target. And I really see Waller having a 12 to 1,300 yard season here.
Absolutely, and I'm fine with our pivot. Originally, we had the touchdowns, and then I put that in my article as a season-long bet you can take on a sports book. And speaking of sports book, if some of you are also trying to get in on that action, we have a show for that. It's called The Juice every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we highly recommend going there if you want some of your betting action as well, run by the great Memphis Young. Now, going back to this Waller thing, one more thing I want to say. I love it that you mentioned that he might not stay healthy, and this could still hit by week 6. This Giants team is going to, no matter how good they are, they will play in a tough schedule. They're in a tough division. They're going to have to pass a lot. Daniel Jones stepped up as a passer last year. They're going to put the rock in his hands, and it's one of the reasons I like Saquon as well for fantasy. This doesn't really take away from Saquon. Saquon's going to eat this offense. It's going to be better because of Darren Waller. So love that, higher than 1.5 games with 100 receiving yards. Next up, just the perfect transition. Matt Babbage is in the crowd tonight. Love to see Matt in the crowd.
Hey,
hosting,
Matty.
hosting the Dynasty Roundtable, which I'll be on later tonight. Great to see you, Matt. Perfect transition into maybe my favorite athlete on the planet right now. Could not include him once I saw this line was where it was. DK Metcalf higher than 7.5 receiving touchdowns. Last year, he had 6 receiving touchdowns, and that was really the only year of his first 3 years of his career where it looked like this line was competitive. And he saw a lot of underperformance in the red zone. He ranked number 2 in the NFL in red zone targets, and the whole Geno Smith didn't write back stuff. Like, a lot of people are still not buying into Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense, but I am. Geno Smith, in his limited playing time 2 years ago, was putting up good numbers, and he did more of the same last year. So I'm buying into the Seahawks offense, and adding Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's why we're getting a discount on this. But DK Metcalf's role in the end zone, he's still the number 1. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to help better this offense. So we actually should see more volume in the red zone for the Seahawks all around. The Seahawks are in on Geno Smith. They're going to pass in the red zone. And the 2 years of his career before that, 12 touchdowns, then 10 touchdowns. He's the ideal specimen for a red zone target. If you think the Seahawks offense takes any step forward the way I do, 7.5 is criminal.
And to piggyback on that with him, the reports are that as much as Pete doesn't love it, they know to be competitive, they're going to have to throw more, which, goes against Carroll's DNA. If you follow Carroll for any length of time, if he had his choice, he's old school. He'd run the ball 80 times a game. In this offense, drafting JSN where they did, this line should be 9.5. This line shouldn't be 7.5, even with JSN. So, and the ability to correlate and tie these all in together, and what an opening matchup for DK. they get the Rams. So for anybody who's unaware about how bad the Rams defense is, they have, out of their 11 starters, so take Aaron Donald out. So now we're down to 10. Okay. Out of those 10, 8 of them are either undrafted, 6th round, or rookie picks. That's the defense the Seahawks are going against in week 1. DK could get 2/3 of, a third of the way there opening week against that defense.
I love the sound of that. I love me some DK Metcalf anytime touchdown. Last but not the least, this was one that I think was at the top of both of our lists. It's one where the projection for the season-long projections done by Billy Muzio and Dario Offstein, this is off by 2 full receiving touchdowns in the projections, and I think he outdoes their projections. Christian Watson, 5.5, or it's 5 receiving touchdowns on Underdog. I don't know if that's still up, but that's where we got it. We need 6 to cash the higher. We need 5 for a push. I think this is one that he can get even if he plays half the season. That's how much I love it. Trevor, what do you got on this?
So this is one we were both. This is one we just both went, okay, that's just wrong, because we started looking on Underdog and looking at these pick'ems and looking at value. This is one we both were like, okay, they missed this. This is how good Christian Watson is, guys. He got my Niners. For those, if you get to watch the video and you're not just listening on podcast, I got my Niners jersey on. Side note, thankfully, we just paid Bosa. He is very, very wealthy now, by the way, but I digress. Back to Christian Watson. This is how good Christian Watson is. He made Trey Lance get drafted by us and us give up 3 first-round picks. That's how good Christian Watson is. And if you just, even in the preseason, if you watch him, he is not just running by, he is torching defenders. He's open by 3-4 yards, which in the NFL, that might as well be 10. If you have your number 1 receiver that's getting open by that much. Now, I've got some messages today, everybody freaking out. Oh, we didn't practice today. Guys, they're keeping guys under control. I'm not worried about it. He has to score a touchdown in 1/3 of the games this season, and we win. Give me that value on what I would argue is a top 10 receiver in the NFL this year. Sign me up.
And I mentioned DK Metcalf being the perfect red zone target. This is about as close as it gets with the skill set. I worked on the Breakout Finder last year. If you haven't already downloaded the Breakout Finder, well, it's very useful over the course of the offseason if you're playing Dynasty or you're playing Redraft. The Breakout Finder predicts how likely a prospect is for a running back or a wide receiver to succeed in the NFL, especially for fantasy purposes, to have a breakout fantasy season. And Christian Watson was in the top 3 of his class in that department, and he just did that when he was healthy last year. He did exactly what the Breakout Finder expected him to do. And I saw a tweet from our friend JJ Zacharias, friend of the program, who said top 7 rookie wide receiver yards per route run leaders since 2011. These are the names: Odell Beckham Jr., A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, who everybody's drafting in the 2nd round this year, Tyreek Hill, and Christian Watson. This man's good at football. Unless Jordan Love is a complete bust, which I don't think is the case. I mean, even then Christian Watson might cash this. But as long as Jordan Love is a decent NFL quarterback that can get through the season with a mediocre Packers offense, this is going to be easy.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, listen to that company that Ahaan just named off that he's in. And I mean, the only team in the NFL that this line would scare me on is the Arizona Cardinals. Because for those who've watched either the old version or especially the new version of Adam Sandler's The Longest Yard, basically the Cardinals are putting Brucey in at quarterback this season and just trying to figure out how they're going to get Mr. Williams out of UFC. But I couldn't agree more. There's so much upside in this offense. He is their number 1, and he's their number 1 by a lot. He's going to get all the targets. He's going to get 120 plus targets this season. So much upside, and I love that the value's there for us, and I can't wait to take this down this year.
And this is what the entry looks like in its full glory. And on Underdog, if you have a 5-pick entry, you can either do an insured entry where you can still win money if one of these picks loses, or you could go all in, which is better value long term if you go all in. So, I took the bullet on this one. I did an insured entry, and Trevor went all in on this. And we placed 100 each. And if you didn't already see the tweet, if we go 5 for 5, both of us will give our winnings away to the listeners. We will split it among listeners, and we will have a method to do that giveaway at the end of the season. And I can't wait for the crowd in chat once we go 5 for 5.
Yeah, I think that we can hit this pretty early in the season with some of the value here. I think we could be celebrating a little bit sooner than we expect. I would like this to be a no sweat. I'd like week 8, week 10, just be done and move on.
Knowing just the entire brand of me spending my entire football fandom hating on Zeke Elliott and then watching him sign with my team, we just know that's going to be the last leg that we're going to have to sweat. But for now, that's going to be the season-long entry. You're going to all sweat that out with us. If you didn't get it in by now, I'm sorry. This is why we have the 2 times a week show, so you can get on these lines early, which segues us right into there is a football game tomorrow. Feels so good to say that. Lions, Chiefs, and we have explored the pick 'em board. And Trevor, you kind of spoiled where you're going with this. Why are you backing said Lions player tomorrow?
Yeah, I wanted to tee it up and kind of tease the listeners here on where we're going, but not knowing what we're doing. So everybody's on David Montgomery's over rushing prop, which I like tomorrow, but the value in the pick 'em for Underdog is a rush or receiving touchdown. So anytime touchdown from him on offense, we like the over for David Montgomery. I think this is going to be a high scoring game tomorrow. I think this game's going over, and I want to be a surprise, especially with the Kelsey news. If Detroit could upset them, I think they're going to be tough. But without the presence that they need on that D line now, I think Detroit's going to push them around. And if they're not down near the goal line, Detroit showed last year, they just hand the ball to Jamal and let him run in. That's what they're going to do with Monty. So I think there's a ton of value, and I don't think we'll see that availability from the pick'ems later in the season on his, touchdown that way.
I said this, a few days ago on Twitter. This is going to be maybe the last time you see on the sports books seeing David Montgomery at plus money, because they haven't caught up on the fact that he's scoring at least 7, maybe 10 touchdowns this year. They haven't caught on to that. And Chris Jones might not play tomorrow, just to add on to everything. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, if you are constructing, one of these 2 picks on the same game, you do have to mix one team with another. You can't take 2 of the same player in one entry. Luckily, I found not just a Chiefs pick that I like, but one that is weird, and that is the intersection in that Venn diagram of picks that I like. And I'm not going to Patrick Mahomes. There's no Kelsey to pick right now because we don't know what's going on. The Sky Moore line, who, I love Sky Moore. Trevor likes Sky Moore tomorrow. It's been moving, right? Here's one that probably won't move today, but get it in now just in case. Harrison Butker higher than 1.5 field goals made. And you might be like, that's so random. Well, there's value here. First off, this was a wagon last year. He hit this in almost every single game last year. Second, Travis Kelce possibly being out will probably, if he's out, that's going to decrease the red zone.
He's out. They officially announced he's out while we're here on the show. I saw the alert.
Well, look at Trevor being a good host and looking at Twitter during the show.
I had an alert. I had an alert set to hit if he was going to play or not.
See, this is why we have you clutch with these. So Travis Kelce is out. So that means if you haven't picked up Juwan Johnson yet, you got to do that so you can start him this week. But that's beside the point. So Harrison Butker is going to have field goal attempts simply because the Chiefs offense, it's Patrick Mahomes. They're still going to find a way to get to the red zone. Obviously, it's still a high game total I'm seeing for good reason. This Lions defense, last year they were bottom 5 in efficiency in the red zone. They allowed the 4th highest rate of red zone touchdown conversion rate. This offseason, most of what they did was addressing that defense. It won't be it won't be enough to take Patrick Mahomes out of the red zone. It will be enough to force them into a few 4th downs. Harrison Butker, a prop that he hit in most of his games last year, and now we're getting it at Pick 'em on Underdog in a better situation than the average Chiefs game last year. I am in.
I love that pick to set up with this. The overs over 54 in this game. No Kelsey. There's so much upside there. And Butker, if you're still playing fantasy season-long leagues that have a kicker, first, shame on you. 2, if you are, right, you're taking Butker as one of the first kickers off the board because, he does hit him. He's next to Tucker. He's the second best kicker in the NFL for me. I think there's a ton of value there in such a high-scoring game.
And those are our 2 primary picks. You want to keep it disciplined early in the season. You're not trying to go crazy and blow all the bankroll on week 1 Thursday night football. We've got so much money to make. And if you are on Underdog, again, if you haven't joined yet, use promo code Underworld. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to go in the NFL tab, and you're going to type the player's name, and boom, David Montgomery higher than a rushing plus receiving touchdown. So any type of touchdown. He's going to get it, not a passing touchdown. There was a prop open someplace on Travis Kelce to throw a touchdown, in the entire season. It won't have an issue with Montgomery there. So just rushing plus receiving touchdown, and then Harrison Butker higher than 1.5 field goals made. I'm going to place this now. It's a 2 pick. The only way you can do this is a standard, and I'm personally just going to place half a unit on this. And we will see you at the cash counter.
One of the things I love too with Underdog on these values on the 2 is, unlike a standard sports book that doesn't do the DFS plays, right? If you try to go bet this instead, you're going to get your value decreased because they run them as, they call them, single game parlays. Whereas with Underdog, you're able to do this DFS style, play this, and we're able to go from there. Okay. So I had a tweet alert set out on him. I saw an alert pop up. So Cup doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
I think his hammy's in a lot of trouble. More, he's in his 30s, a lot more than they say. Pushing Kelsey tomorrow doesn't make any sense either way for me. It doesn't make sense to have him in the game. Well, it's a long season. I get it's opening night. And he probably wants to play. But if you're the Chiefs, why do you risk your tight end one, wide receiver one, number one offensive option when there's, much more longer season to go?
Yeah, so just for those listening on the podcast, there was a false alarm. So Kelsey not officially out now, but, we like the Butker whether or not well, that came out wrong. We like the Harrison Butker pick whether or not Kelsey plays. Cooper Kupp is the one most likely going on the IR, as Matt Babbage says. But David Montgomery, anytime touchdown, and Harrison Butker higher than 1.5 field goals.
I like it.
Yep. So we go ahead.
One of the things I say, they did have a notice earlier, though, right as we're getting ready to start the show. Speaking of tight ends and our Waller pick, Mark Andrews was limited in practice today.
This tight end is like the worst position to have problems this early in the season. Like, can we be better? Like, if Juwan Johnson is available, I'm kind of fine. It's like whatever, but also like I spent a second-round pick on Mark Andrews. I spent a first-round pick on Travis Kelce. Like any other position, we're going to have these problems. But
I saw that one.
So someone asked, we got a question about fantasy, and I'm always up for these. Should I trade Amari Cooper for Cooper Kupp? I already have DK, T. Higgins, Drake London, and Zay Flowers full PPR. They've got Jalen Hurts, Bijan, and David Njoku. If you're playing in redraft, I would not trade Amari for Cooper Kupp personally, just because there's a serious high possibility that Cooper Kupp is going on the IR right now, and the Rams are going to be real bad. Flashy news, they're going to be bad. I drafted Cooper Kupp in one season-long league, and I have chalked the fact that Cooper Kupp might not play this entire season. Like, worst case scenario is definitely possible.
I don't make that trade, and I get right. If Kupp's healthy and he's at full go, he can lead the league, right? He could easily be wide receiver one. We've seen him do it. Here's my challenge on why I don't love this trade. Because I don't think Stafford's quarterback, I think he's dealt as soon as there's a big injury. I think, and for a contending team, I think they go to the Rams, and somebody who's in contention that loses their quarterback goes and trades for Stafford. And then you got Stetson Bennett trying to throw to him. I think the Rams are going to unload all these contracts, try to get some draft picks back, right? The Rams mortgaged the farm to win that Super Bowl, and they got it. They got their Super Bowl. They're excited, but they're in a bad spot when it comes to picks and capital and where their money's allocated. I don't make that trade. I like Amari. I don't know that Deshaun turns back into full Deshaun this season, but Cooper is their wide receiver one, and they are in a tough division, right? I think Pittsburgh is going to be much improved this year on offense. Obviously, Baltimore is going to be good, and we all know how good the Bengals are. So that's a tough division to be in. They're going to have to throw the ball, and right now, Cooper's there. And I like your other three wide receivers. I get why maybe you'd consider it, but for me, it's a pass.
Absolutely. Another question. Do you guys like Cole Kmet this year? He's the guy I'm looking at targeting, but interested to hear your thoughts.
So Kmet versus who? So I was all in on Kmet last year, all those vacated targets in Chicago. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know that he finishes top 12 this year. I think he has the skill set to, and he's definitely a guy. If you're going like late tight end, I have exposure in best ball for sure, because he can definitely in best ball side deliver those spike weeks. But if I'm in a redraft league that has one tight end, he's probably not the guy I'm targeting in there. I like, if we're going to talk about targets a little bit later, it's the end of season now, so I don't mind sharing. I'm going after Dalton Kincaid. I'm going after Sam Laporta. I think while rookie tight ends haven't always been monsters. I think those two have a chance to do some stuff that a lot of rookie tight ends haven't done. I think Dalton Kincaid is the wide receiver 2 for the Bills this season. I think it's Diggs. I think it's Kincaid. And I think he gets peppered with targets by Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's something you heard on Mind to Mansion as well when Matt Kelly was on the podcast with Josh Larkey, and they were saying how Dawson Knox might get his in the red zone and be fantasy relevant, all while Dalton Kincaid is a top 12 tight end, and that's certainly a possibility because he can play that slot, which is where you want your fantasy tight ends to be playing anyway. So yeah, I'm on the same page with Cole Kmet, and the thing with the Justin Fields offense is that no matter how much better he gets as a passer this year, our beliefs can be different on that. It's his best ability is still, running the ball. So, that's where he's elite. So Cole Kmet, not a top 2 target on an offense where the quarterback loves to run. Yeah, this is why I'm pivoting to Juwan Johnson. But to complete the show, if in case you missed it, we have a season-long 5-pick entry, which, most of the lines are now gone on Underdog, but we have it locked in. We reviewed that, and we will do a cash giveaway after we go 5 for 5 on the entry. And for Thursday Night Football, a 2-pick entry collab between us, recommending half a unit on this. David Montgomery, higher than half a rushing plus receiving touchdown, and Harrison Butker, higher than 1.5 field goals. We will see you at the cash counter, and we will see you on Friday for episode number 2, getting into the entire week 1 Sunday and Monday schedule. For now, see you later.